Hello, welcome back. I am Arthur from United Kingdom. In this video we will discuss about Nugi request to India government. Right time for India to intervene aggressively in Myanmar. Supporting NUG over the junta. The political and humanitarian crisis in Myanmar has persisted with devastating consequences since the military coup of February 2021. Over the last 4 years, the Southeast Asian country has descended into a prolonged conflict between the military junta and pro-democracy resistance groups led by the National Unity Government NUG. The situation has reached a critical juncture in 2025 as the Myanmar junta continues to commit atrocities against civilians while blocking international humanitarian aid. In light of these developments, voices within and outside Myanmar, including the NUG, have called for India to intervene more decisively and support democratic forces instead of maintaining a neutral or balanced stance. This article explores the latest atrocities committed by the junta as of April 2025, examines the moral and strategic reasons why India should support the NUG, and argues why now is the right time for India to assert a more aggressive stance in Myanmar's affairs. Latest atrocities committed by the Myanmar junta, April 2025. The month of April 2025 witnessed yet another series of brutal attacks on Myanmar's civilian population by the ruling military junta. Despite declaring a temporary ceasefire in the aftermath of a devastating 7.7 magnitude earthquake in March, the junta continued to target rebel-held regions. Villages surrounding Mandalay became the epicenter of violence, where military forces conducted paramotor bombings and arson attacks. In the village of Thone Pan Hala, 3 elderly siblings were killed when their home was bombed. Meanwhile, in the village of Ngashan, troops from the notorious 33rd Light Infantry Battalion torched over 170 homes. Such systematic acts of violence, even in the aftermath of a natural disaster, expose the junta's blatant disregard for civilian lives and international humanitarian norms. The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights has raised alarm over the junta's continued offensive, reporting that military forces have carried out over 50 attacks on civilian areas since the ceasefire was announced on April 2nd. Of these, at least 16 occurred after the ceasefire, confirming that the truce was more performative than substantive. The same report estimated that approximately 28 million people have been affected by the earthquake, yet humanitarian aid remains restricted in opposition-held territories. The junta has imposed rigid conditions on aid distribution, including a requirement for prior permission to enter affected areas, effectively blocking NGOs and international agencies from delivering emergency relief. The UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights called on the junta to immediately halt all military actions and ensure unimpeded humanitarian access, especially in the conflict-ridden Sagring region. These events follow a consistent pattern of brutality since the military coup. According to previous UN reports, more than 5,300 civilians have been killed and over 3.3 million displaced. Human rights abuses, including arbitrary arrests, torture, forced disappearances, and denial of medical care, are widespread. The junta's recent enforcement of mandatory military conscription in 2024 further escalated tensions, with nearly 27,400 citizens detained since then. Rights groups have urged international actors, including foreign embassies based in Myanmar, to pressure the junta into allowing humanitarian access. Despite foreign donations like Australia's $2 million aid channeled through the International Committee of the Red Cross, distribution remains stalled due to the junta's tight control over logistics and local channels. Why India must support the NUG over the junta. India has traditionally maintained a pragmatic approach in dealing with Myanmar, balancing its relations between the military and civilian entities. However, in light of the growing humanitarian crisis and strategic shifts in the region, continuing with this balanced approach may no longer be tenable. The NUG, composed of lawmakers and ethnic leaders, ousted by the 2021 coup, represents the democratic aspirations of the Myanmar people. Supporting the NUG aligns with India's democratic values and its foreign policy principle of promoting democratic governance in the neighbourhood. By doing so, India would also signal its moral leadership on the global stage and reinforce its credibility as a champion of democratic ideals in Asia. Strategically, the junta's increasing dependence on China poses a direct threat to India's influence in Southeast Asia. As the junta becomes more isolated from the West, it has leaned heavily on China for military and financial support. This dynamic strengthens China's geopolitical foothold in India's backyard. Supporting the NUG would help India counterbalance China's influence and strengthen its strategic leverage in the region. Furthermore, the ongoing conflict in Myanmar has direct implications for India's northeastern states. The region shares a long and porous border with Myanmar, and the spillover effects of the conflict, refugee flows, arms trafficking and militant movements have the potential to destabilize border security. A stable and democratic Myanmar under the NUG would be a more predictable and cooperative neighbour in managing cross-border issues. India's engagement with the NUG can also open up opportunities for enhanced regional connectivity. Projects like the India-Myanmar-Thailand Trilateral Highway and the Caladan Multimodal Transit Transport Project are hampered by instability and poor governance under the junta. Supporting the NUG would improve prospects for completing these infrastructure projects, thereby advancing India's Act East policy and economic integration with Southeast Asia. Growing engagement between India and the NUG. Recognizing the shifting ground realities, India has taken cautious but significant steps toward engaging with the NUG. In September 2024, India invited representatives from the NUG and ethnic minority groups to participate in a security seminar in New Delhi. This marked the first official engagement between India and Myanmar's pro-democracy forces since the coup. The NUG has welcomed India's outreach and called for deeper collaboration. Zhao Kyo, spokesperson for the Office of the President of the NUG, emphasized the progress made by resistance forces and urged India to formally recognize and engage with the NUG. He argued that the junta has lost effective control over vast territories and that the NUG, in coordination with the People's Defense Force and ethnic armed groups, now controls large parts of the country. Supporting the NUG at this juncture would also allow India to shape the post-conflict political landscape in Myanmar. As the resistance forces gain ground, the possibility of regime change grows stronger. If India positions itself as a key ally of the democratic movement now, it would ensure a favourable bilateral relationship with a future democratic government in Myanmar. Conclusion: the time is now. The atrocities committed by the Myanmar junta in April 2025 have once again brought to light the urgent need for international intervention. India, as a regional power with significant strategic and moral stakes in Myanmar, must go beyond cautious diplomacy and adopt a proactive stance in support of the national unity government. The arguments for supporting the NUG are compelling: alignment with democratic values, strategic competition with China, regional security, economic integration, and humanitarian responsibility. The junta's continued attacks on civilians, even amidst a natural disaster, make it increasingly indefensible for India to maintain a neutral position. By recognizing and supporting the NUG, facilitating humanitarian aid, and coordinating with international partners, India can play a pivotal role in restoring peace and democracy in Myanmar. The time for strategic ambiguity is over. For the sake of regional stability, human dignity, and its own national interest, India must act boldly and decisively. Thank you for watching. Please make sure you subscribe Zal Lengam Media for more videos.